done two things that I really enjoyed since getting fired. No one believes it. The people who do, you don't care about because they're dumb by definition. They read the New York Times and believe it. What? Why don't I do that? And why don't I do it like at my actual dining room table? It's kind of not that hard. Like, does she smell good? Is she nice? Does she have a cute butt? In your opinion, this is a very subjective question. Do you find her attractive? Man, of all the trends, and again, this is right in my world. This is media. That's my world. Of all the trends in the last 30 years, that is the last one I would have predicted and the most hopeful. It's incredible.
How do you like doing it?
Well, I absolutely love it because it's how I grew up.
Do you like it? Do you like podcasting better than?
I've done a total of 2 podcasts in my life. I mean, I've been on, well, in the last year, I'd never really been on. First of all, I work for a big media company. Mm-hmm. We have our own world of promotions or media relations. I think the last company I worked for called it that, but it's just the PR department, okay? And we have our own way of doing things, and it's a huge company, multi-billion-dollar company, and they have a way of doing it, and all these like 28-year-old girls are telling you what you got to do an interview with New York Times Magazine, whatever. So I'd never done podcasts. That's not even on their radar. They didn't even know that existed, really. They thought like Esquire, where I used to write, or New York Times Magazine, they thought that was really impressive. It's not impressive at all. No one reads that crap. No one believes it. The people who do, you don't care about because they're dumb by definition. They read the New York Times and believe it. What? You'd have to be like a pretty delusional, low IQ character to be in that position right now. No, I'm serious. I've written a lot for the New York Times. Like, I used to read the New York Times every day, but it's absurd, and everyone knows it's absurd. And if you don't know it's absurd, then I don't care about your opinion. Like, I'm not even going to argue that with you. So I had never done podcasts, really, and I did like a hunting podcast in Maine once because I knew the guy or whatever, but I'd never done podcasts. So the last year, I've done all these podcasts, and I loved it. It was like so fun. And it was fun because it's exactly how I grew up. Like, this is like the most natural thing. This is how I grew up. This is what we did for entertainment. Sit around the table and talk about what you think and what you've read and be as honest as you can be. Like, I hate to say this, I guess I'm not always saying this, but one of the beauties of growing up, as a young child with like no women in the house, you can say whatever you want. There's no one to offend. You know what I mean? It's like how I grew up. So you say whatever you want, and you can be as honest as you want. Like, there's just dudes, it's like, what, are you going to offend your dad? No, probably not. What hasn't he seen? Are you going to offend your little brother? Who cares? You can just really be honest. And I love that. It's like the happiest times of my life. And our family is that way. And we have exceedingly long dinners. We play games at the end. It's just fun. And everyone can say exactly what they think. Like, I've always lived that way at home. So a podcast is like not different from that, really. Yeah. And so I've done 2 episodes. So it took me, I'm very much a non-genius. So it takes me a while to like figure out the obvious. And after a year of doing like cable news interviews on the internet, which did fine, it's fun. I like interviewing people. It finally occurred to me, like, the most fun I've had in the last year, I've done 2 things that I really enjoyed since getting fired. One was being able to travel around to different countries and interview people there. I couldn't do that because I was stuck in the studio every night. I really love that, so I want to keep doing that, and I am. And the second thing I've really enjoyed is going on other people's podcasts. I just enjoyed it. It's just fun. And why is that not fun? It's fun. And why don't I do that? And why don't I do it like at my actual dining room table in my barn, where my son's engagement party was, or like where my family actually eat? Like, why not do that? And I've had a makeup artist my whole life, as I told you, and like, that's a little embarrassing to admit that. I used to tell my kids, your dad wears makeup, when they were little, but why do that? I probably should be ashamed of how I look, but I'm actually not really. I'm married to the same girl. I don't really care. And so why not just do exactly what I would do anyway? And we don't have TV at our house, and we don't go to the movies, or we don't, like, our entertainment is meals. Like, that's always been our entertainment, always. And we take them really seriously. Always have people over for dinner. We always have 10, 12 people at the table. It's not super exciting, but for us, that's our entertainment. That's what we do. And that's what we've always done. Or since the week we were married, we've done that. And that's, as I've noted, exactly how I grew up. So why not just do that? Like, why is that not great?
It is great.
Well, I've only done it twice. Okay. I interviewed Aaron Rodgers, who I loved. He's just a really good guy. And I interviewed a friend of mine called Dave Smith, who's a comedian, but kind of a really smart guy, who has the same instincts I have about a lot of things. And I've just done 2, and I have loved it. And I'm doing 3 a week for the foreseeable future. And why not?
Incredible.
Well, don't you think? I mean, I don't always, but I usually get to the obvious conclusion last. I start with like, let's do something really elaborate and unlikely and probably certain to fail. And then like over time, you're like, probably didn't need to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
I think that about the last thing I'll say. I can't stop talking. That's one of my main faults. But I always think that you see these numbers and like no one's dating, much less getting married, much less having kids. And like men and women don't understand each other. It's all real. It's like the central tragedy of our time. But I always think it's kind of not that hard. Like, does she smell good? Is she nice? Does she have a cute butt? In your opinion, this is a very subjective question. Do you find her attractive? Probably just like if she's a decent person, you probably just marry her and make the commitment and try hard and conceive a bunch of kids. That's actually not that hard either, having done it. And like, it's just not hard. It's like animals do this and they're like pretty happy. So just like take that route. Don't overthink it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yep, I do. No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.